The old submarine rested quietly at the bottom of the ocean, half forgotten by the world above. Its metal hull was covered with layers of rust, barnacles, and seaweed. Long ago, it had been one of the proudest vessels of Earth's Navy, a diesel-electric submarine that had sailed under the waves for decades. Now it was mostly a museum piece, visited by curious tourists and history lovers. The crew that once worked on it was long gone, replaced by new technology and faster, bigger submarines. No one thought it would ever see action again. Jack Morrow, a retired submarine captain, stepped onto the deck with a slow, careful pace. His boots echoed against the steel as he looked at the faded paint and scratched hull. He had spent 30 years under the sea, and though he had retired, something about this old submarine made him feel alive again. He ran his hand along the railing and sighed. "She's old, but she still has life in her," he muttered. Beside him, Lisa Carter, a young engineer with a sharp mind and a stubborn streak, shook her head. "Jack, it's just a museum piece. You can't tell me this old thing will even start," Lisa said, her tone half teasing, half serious. She had been working with the Navy's experimental team for only a few years, but her skills with electronics and machinery were unmatched. She carried a small toolkit in her hand and scanned the hull, imagining all the ways she could make it move again. "You'd be surprised, Lisa," Jack said with a small smile. "These old submarines were built to last. They may look dead, but under the surface, they're still alive. Sometimes, it just takes the right touch to wake them." Ben Turner, a sonar specialist, walked behind them, carrying a small backpack filled with sensors and devices. He was quiet, observant, and always thinking. "I hope you're right, Captain, because if these reports are true, we might need her more than anyone wants to admit." The three of them had been called back by a secret branch of the Navy. Strange objects had been falling from orbit and crashing into the oceans all over the planet. Satellites showed mysterious energy readings deep beneath the water. Initially, governments had assumed this was a normal meteor shower, but the readings didn't match anything natural. Every attempt to reach the objects with modern submarines or drones failed. Strange interference scrambled the electronics, and unmanned probes disappeared without a trace. "They think it's meteors, but I don't," Jack said as he stepped closer to the hatch. "I've been under the waves a long time. Nothing natural moves like that. Something is down there, and we're the only ones who can go close without getting fried by their sensors." Lisa frowned. "So, why us? Why bring back an old submarine when we have the newest nuclear ones?" "Because this one is old," Jack said simply. "It doesn't use the electronic systems the aliens or whatever they are can detect. Analog controls, mechanical switches, manual sonar. They won't see us coming." Ben adjusted his glasses and opened his backpack, pulling out a small sonar device. "So we're going back to the basics. Passive sonar. Listening instead of scanning. It's risky, but it might be the only chance." Jack nodded and motioned toward the hatch. Lisa and Ben followed him down the narrow stairs into the belly of the submarine. Inside, it smelled of oil, salt, and old metal. The air was thick, stale, but it carried a sense of history. The control room was small, but functional. Old dials, levers, and gauges lined the walls. A single periscope rose from the deck. Its glass scratched, but clear enough to see through. Lisa walked over to the engine room, her fingers tracing the machinery. She could feel the vibrations in the metal, the heartbeat of the submarine waiting to start again. She smiled. "This thing is amazing. It's like it's sleeping, waiting for someone to wake it up." Jack climbed into the captain's chair, his hands resting on the controls. He remembered every lever, every switch, every gauge from decades ago. His fingers moved with ease, checking each system one by one. "We'll start slow," he said. "We can't risk blowing something up on the first try." 1. As Lisa and Ben prepared the systems, the news came over the radio. Static filled the room before a voice broke through. Urgent and tense. "We have multiple unidentified objects impacting the Pacific Ocean. Local naval forces report complete electronic failure. All attempts to investigate are unsuccessful. Civilians are being evacuated from coastal areas. Repeat. Civilians are being evacuated." Jack's eyes narrowed. "They're not meteors," he said. "They're something else. Intelligent. And they're coming for us." The submarine shuddered as the engines roared to life. Diesel fumes filled the small space, and the old machinery groaned under the sudden movement. Lisa wiped her brow and checked her instruments. "Engines are stable. Hull integrity is holding. We're good to go." Ben moved to the sonar console and switched on the passive listening devices. The room filled with low, rhythmic sounds, creaks, groans, the pulse of the ocean. For the first time in years, Jack felt at home. The old submarine slipped quietly into the water, moving deeper and deeper into the dark, cold ocean. Hours passed. The deeper they went, the colder and darker it became. The sunlight disappeared, leaving only the faint glow of the submarine's interior lights. Jack sat at the controls, calm but alert. Lisa monitored the engines and energy systems, making small adjustments as they moved. Ben listened to the sounds around them, his face tense as he tried to make sense of patterns in the deep. Then, it came. A faint, unnatural hum far in the distance, different from the usual sounds of the ocean. Ben froze. "I'm picking up something. It's massive, moving fast, and it's not natural." Jack's hand tightened on the control wheel. "Show me," he said. Ben adjusted the sonar, and the image appeared on the old screen. A massive shape, unlike any submarine or ship they had seen. It moved with purpose, gliding through the water like a predator. The hull seemed to hum with energy, almost like it had a life of its own. Lisa leaned over, her eyes wide. "Is that a ship? Or some kind of creature?" Jack shook his head slowly. "Doesn't matter. It's here, and it's not alone. We're going to have to follow it, stay hidden, and see what it's planning." The submarine moved silently, using every trick Jack had learned over decades. They navigated through underwater canyons, around massive rock formations, and beneath thermal vents that could scramble electronics. The old submarine had one advantage the modern ships didn't. It could hide in plain sight, blending with the ocean around it. Hours turned into days. The crew worked in shifts, eating canned food and sleeping in cramped quarters. Jack stayed at the helm, guiding them deeper. Lisa repaired and upgraded systems wherever she could, and Ben continued to study the sonar readings, mapping the movements of the unknown vessels. Finally, they reached a wide trench, so deep that the sunlight had never reached it. The shapes on the sonar grew larger, dozens of them, moving in formation. They were alien ships, larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever faced. Glowing energy panels, strange shapes, and a pulse that resonated through the water. The aliens had invaded quietly, assuming no human could challenge them here. Jack looked at Lisa and Ben. "They think we're weak. They think we're extinct under the waves. They're about to find out how wrong they are." "Jack," Lisa's hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from excitement. "So what do we do?" Jack smiled, a slow, confident smile. "We do what humans do best. We survive. We adapt. And we hit them where it hurts." Ben studied the sonar one last time. "We're the only ones who can do this, Captain. Everyone else would have failed. This submarine, it's our only chance." The old submarine settled into position, hidden in the shadows of the trench. The crew prepared themselves for the unknown. Outside, the alien ships moved with calculated precision, unaware that an old relic from Earth was watching, learning, and ready to strike. For the first time in years, Jack felt the thrill of command, the weight of responsibility, and the quiet confidence that humans could, against all odds, make a difference. The ocean was dark, the enemy was powerful, but as long as they had this submarine and each other, they had hope. The story of the old submarine, forgotten by time, was about to begin again. And this time, it would not just explore the depths, it would fight. The old submarine drifted silently in the deep trench, the crew holding their breath as the alien shapes moved above them. The water around them seemed to pulse with energy, strange waves that interfered with electronics and made the old submarine's metal hull vibrate. Jack Morrow sat at the helm, eyes sharp, hands steady on the controls. He had been in dangerous situations before, but nothing like this. Nothing alive or dead that humans had ever faced. Lisa Carter crouched by the control panels, checking the systems. Even in this old submarine, she had managed to make small upgrades. A few new sensors, reinforced hull patches, and improvised power adjustments. It wasn't much compared to the alien technology outside, but it was enough to give them a fighting chance. She tapped a few switches and whispered to herself, "Come on, stay stable." Ben Turner, sonar specialist, stared at the faint images on the sonar screen. The alien ships were moving with precision, gliding through the trench in formations he had never seen before. Their shapes were strange, elongated, and almost alive. Some of them emitted pulses that lit up the surrounding water like faint lightning. "There are more than a dozen," he said quietly, "and they're scanning the trench floor. If they detect us..." He didn't finish the sentence. Everyone in the submarine knew what that meant. Detection could mean destruction. Jack shook his head slowly. "They won't see us. Not with this submarine. Not with me in command. We're too small, too quiet, too human. They'll think we're just another shadow in the water." Hours passed. The submarine moved deeper, threading through narrow rock walls and underwater cliffs. The aliens seemed unaware of the human vessel below, their massive forms gliding above like predators, unconcerned with the tiny fish beneath them. The deeper they went, the darker it became, until the ocean around them was a black void. Only the submarine's dim lights marked their presence. Lisa leaned against the wall, exhausted but alert. "Jack, these readings, the energy pulses from those ships, it's not just weapons or propulsion. It's like they're connected to something, some network. If we can figure it out, we might be able to disrupt them." Jack nodded. "We will, but we have to be careful. One mistake, one wrong move, and they'll know we're here. Then it's over." Ben pointed at the screen. "Look at this. One of the ships is changing direction, moving toward a smaller group of ocean vents. It's scanning, but something is different. It's not aggressive. Yet. But it's searching for something. Or someone." Jack's jaw tightened. "They're mapping. Learning. They've never fought humans before. They don't understand us. That's our advantage. We move. They hesitate. We hide. They overthink. And overthinking gets them killed." Lisa glanced at him with a small smile. "I like the sound of that. Human intuition over alien calculation." Jack allowed himself a brief smile. Over the next few hours, the crew observed the alien ships carefully. They moved slowly, scanning the trench floor and using strange sonar pulses that bent around rocks and cliffs. Jack guided the submarine along hidden paths, using old navigation charts and his memory of underwater currents. The aliens were fast, but predictable in a way. They relied on patterns, and humans, Jack knew, could think outside patterns. Lisa began working on the torpedoes. The submarine had a few old models stored in the racks, designed decades ago. She examined them carefully. "They won't work against these aliens unless we modify them," she said. She removed the guidance systems and replaced them with pressure-sensitive triggers. She adjusted the explosives to match the massive hulls of the alien ships. "They'll never see it coming," she whispered. Ben worked beside her, fine-tuning the sonar. He created small acoustic tricks, subtle pulses that mimicked natural ocean sounds. "If they're listening, they'll hear nothing unusual," he said. "It's like hiding in plain sight. A human trick." Jack watched them both. "Good. You two may be the smartest humans I've ever met. But remember, we're not attacking yet. We need to understand them first. One mistake, and they'll crush us." Days passed. The submarine remained hidden, while the alien ships moved across the trench. Unaware of the human presence below, the crew ate canned food, slept in shifts, and monitored every movement. Tension built with every passing hour. The aliens were massive, intelligent, and dangerous. But Jack noticed something sometimes. They paused, changed direction, or seemed to hesitate. Human intuition, patience, and stealth were giving them a tiny advantage. One day, as the submarine drifted near a cluster of underwater canyons, Ben spotted a strange pattern on the sonar. "Jack, look at this. There's something different here. A structure. Artificial. Beneath the ocean floor. Massive. They're protecting it." Jack leaned forward. His eyes narrowed. Could it be a base? A command center? The heart of their invasion? Okay. Lisa checked her instruments. It's definitely artificial. Energy readings are strong, but it's buried under layers of rock and sediment. They're guarding it, but they don't know we're here. Jack took a deep breath. Good. Then, we know our target. We need to study it first. Learn everything before we strike. For the next several hours, the submarine circled the area, carefully mapping the alien formation and the buried structure. The aliens moved around it in predictable patterns, their movements graceful and calculated. Jack and his team learned their timings, the pulses they emitted, and the areas that were weak. Lisa smiled as she adjusted the torpedoes. "Once we have a clear path, we can hit them where it hurts the most. One strike could cripple the entire formation." Ben shook his head. "We have to be careful. We can't get greedy. One mistake, and we're done. They're huge, and we're tiny." Jack nodded. "I know, but humans have something they don't: flexibility, instinct, courage, and sometimes that's enough." The tension in the submarine was high. Every sonar blip, every shadow, every pulse made the crew alert. The ocean felt alive, almost sentient, with alien ships above and ancient currents below. Jack guided the submarine through narrow tunnels, around massive rock formations, and beneath vents that gave off scalding heat. The aliens followed predictable paths, but the humans were unpredictable. Lisa worked tirelessly, adjusting torpedoes, checking energy systems, and reinforcing the hull. "We're ready," she said finally, exhaustion in her voice. "If you give the word, we can strike." Jack shook his head slowly. "Not yet. We wait. We watch. Learn their weaknesses. Patience is our weapon." Days turned into nights. Though under the ocean, there was no real day or night. The crew rotated shifts, slept in tight bunks, and ate the same food repeatedly, but the adrenaline never left them. Every moment, they were close to being discovered. Every mistake could be fatal. Yet, with every passing hour, they learned more about the alien forces. Finally, Jack noticed a pattern. The aliens had a central ship, larger than the rest, which seemed to control the smaller vessels. It moved slowly, almost cautiously, issuing pulses that the other ships responded to. It was the brain of the operation. If they could disable it, the rest might fall into chaos. "That's our target," Jack said quietly to Lisa and Ben. "The rest of them are strong, but one strike at the heart, and everything else will weaken. We need to be ready." Lisa checked the torpedoes one last time. "I've modified them for maximum impact. If they hit the central ship, it'll create a chain reaction. The smaller ships won't know what to do." Ben studied the sonar. "And we'll stay hidden. They'll never see us coming. Not until it's too late." Jack looked out through the small viewing port. The alien ships glided above, unaware of the small human submarine below. He felt a mix of fear, excitement, and determination. "They think they're invincible," he said softly. "But humans never give up." The submarine settled into position, hidden in the shadows of the canyon. Jack, Lisa, and Ben prepared for what might be the most dangerous mission in human history. The ocean was dark. The aliens were powerful, and the submarine was old. But it had one thing the aliens did not: humans inside it, who refused to be defeated. Outside, the alien ships continued their patrol, scanning the trench floor for intruders. Inside, the human crew made final checks, whispered plans, and steeled themselves for the coming fight. The stage was set. The first move would be theirs, and the outcome would determine the fate of the oceans and perhaps the entire planet. Jack sat in the captain's chair, hands resting on the controls. "Remember," he said quietly to Lisa and Ben, "we survive first, we strike second. Patience is our weapon. Humans are unpredictable, and that is why we will win." The submarine hummed quietly in the dark, carrying its crew toward an unknown and dangerous encounter. Above them, the alien invasion force moved with confidence, unaware that the humans below were watching, learning, and preparing to turn the tide. The battle under the waves had not begun yet, but the humans were ready. They had patience, courage, and an old submarine that the aliens would never expect. And sometimes, that was enough to change the course of history. The old submarine drifted silently in the shadows of the canyon, the crew tense and alert. Jack Morrow sat in the captain's chair, his eyes fixed on the sonar readings. The central alien ship was moving closer to their position, unaware of the human submarine hiding below. Every pulse it sent out was powerful, but the old vessel's analog systems and mechanical controls kept them invisible. Lisa Carter checked the torpedoes for the last time. She had modified the old weapons carefully, adjusting the triggers and explosive charges so that even the massive alien ship would feel the impact. She wiped sweat from her brow. "Everything is ready," she said quietly. "Once we launch, it's going to be chaos for them." Ben Turner studied the sonar. "We know their pattern now. The smaller ships always stay in formation around the central one. If we hit the right spot, the chain reaction could destroy the whole formation. But we have to be precise. One mistake, and we're finished." Jack nodded slowly. "Humans are small, but we're smart. We've waited, observed, and planned. Now it's time to act." The submarine moved closer to the central alien ship, using the narrow shadows of the canyon walls to hide its silhouette. The water above was alive with alien vessels, glowing with strange energy and moving in perfect synchronization. Jack adjusted the speed, keeping the vessel slow and steady, using passive sonar to listen for the perfect moment. Hours passed, and the tension grew. Every creak of the submarine, every shift of water, made the crew hold their breath. They were deep in the heart of enemy territory, with massive alien ships above them that could crush them with a single pulse. But humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability was their advantage. Lisa leaned over the torpedo controls. "Jack, if we launch now, the first torpedo will hit the central ship's energy core. The chain reaction should destroy at least 3 of the smaller ships instantly." Jack looked at her and nodded. "Do it." The torpedo left the submarine silently, gliding through the dark water toward the central ship. The crew watched the sonar as it approached the target. A moment later, there was a distant explosion, followed by a pulse of energy that lit up the trench. The central ship shook violently, and the smaller vessels scattered in confusion. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Ben's eyes were wide. "They're panicking. The chain reaction is working. It's working." Jack's hands were steady on the controls. "Good. Stay calm and follow the plan. We're not done yet." Lisa quickly loaded a second torpedo, aiming for one of the larger alien ships that had moved to attack. She pressed the release, and the torpedo shot through the water with deadly precision. Another explosion shook the trench, and the alien ship shuddered. Cracks appeared in its hull, and energy readings dropped sharply. The aliens tried to respond, sending out pulses and scanning the trench. But the old submarine was too small, too quiet, and too human to detect. Jack guided the vessel through narrow paths, dodging the alien sensors while the crew continued their assault. Hours turned into a tense battle. Every move was calculated. Every torpedo was carefully aimed. The crew worked together with a rhythm they had developed over years of training and experience. Human intuition, patience, and courage guided them. And the aliens, despite their technology, struggled to adapt. Lisa adjusted the torpedo triggers for the final wave. If we hit the right points on the remaining ships, the entire formation could collapse. But we have to move fast. They're regrouping. 1. Jack nodded. Then we strike. Human ingenuity over alien arrogance. Let's show them why they underestimated us. The submarine moved closer to the final cluster of alien ships. Ben used the sonar to identify weak points in the alien formation. "Jack, here, a small gap in their defense. If we aim here, the chain reaction will take out at least 5 ships at once." Jack took a deep breath and adjusted the controls. The submarine glided into position, silent and unseen. Lisa released the torpedoes, one after another, and the water erupted with explosions. The trench shook with energy, and the alien ships screamed in confusion and panic. The humans watched as their plan unfolded perfectly. The smaller ships collided with each other in the chaos, while the remaining larger ships struggled to maintain formation. The central ship, already damaged, tried to send out pulses to control the others. But it was too late. The human crew had broken their network. Ben cheered quietly. "Look at them. They don't know what to do. Our plan is working." Jack smiled, but he stayed focused. "Keep going. Finish this before they recover." Lisa prepared the final torpedo, aimed at the largest remaining ship. This one. This is for the trench. For the humans who have ever fought and survived against impossible odds. The torpedo left the submarine, striking the alien ship directly in its energy core. The explosion was massive, lighting up the entire trench with a blinding glow. The water boiled. Currents twisted violently, and the remaining ships were thrown into confusion. Some collided, others fled, and the rest were left drifting, disabled and powerless. The submarine shook from the shockwaves, but Jack held steady. "We did it," he said quietly. "All thanks to human skill, patience, and courage." Ben was still staring at the sonar screen. "They're retreating. They're leaving the trench. The human submarine did this. They can't believe it. Lisa wiped sweat from her face. I can't believe it either. We just did the impossible. Jack looked at his crew, proud and tired. We didn't just survive. We fought. We won. Humans are small, but we are clever, brave, and unpredictable. And that is why we survive where others fail. The submarine moved slowly through the trench, following the retreating aliens just enough to make sure they would not return soon. The water was filled with wreckage from the destroyed ships, energy pulses fading into the depths. The humans had achieved what no one thought possible. They had destroyed a full alien invasion force, using an old submarine, human skill, and determination. Hours later, the submarine surfaced near a quiet coastline. The sun was rising, painting the sky with pink and orange light. Jack, Lisa, and Ben stepped onto the deck, looking at the calm sea above the chaos they had created below. Lisa took a deep breath. We actually did it. The humans survived. Ben nodded slowly. And all because of this old submarine, and because we refused to give up. Jack looked out at the horizon, thinking of all the people on the planet who had no idea what had happened deep beneath the waves. The world doesn't need to know every detail, he said. They just need to know humans never give up. And sometimes, the smallest and oldest weapons, with the right minds behind them, can change the fate of the world. They spent the next few hours checking the submarine, repairing minor damage, and recording data for analysis. The world above had no idea how close it had come to disaster, and how one old submarine, guided by human skill and bravery, had turned the tide of an invasion. As the sun climbed higher, Jack, Lisa, and Ben sat together on the deck. They were exhausted, but proud. The trench below was silent, the aliens gone, and the ocean seemed calm again. We survived, Jack said simply, and we did it on our own terms. Lisa smiled. And no one will ever forget this submarine, or what humans can do when they refuse to be predictable. Ben nodded. I think the aliens learned a lesson they'll never forget. Humans are dangerous, not because we are big, strong, or fast, but because we are clever, brave, and unpredictable. Jack looked at the horizon, thinking about the future. We'll be ready next time, because humans always survive, and we always fight back. No matter what comes from the stars, we will not be defeated. The old submarine rested quietly on the ocean surface, a relic of the past that had become a weapon of the future. Inside, 3 humans had proven that courage, ingenuity, and patience could overcome any enemy, no matter how advanced or powerful. The ocean around them was calm, but the world had changed forever. The story of a small, old submarine defeating a full alien invasion force would become legend among the few who knew. Jack, Lisa, and Ben had faced impossible odds and won, proving that humans were not just survivors, they were fighters, masters of the unexpected, and guardians of their planet. And as the sun rose higher, lighting the calm waters, the crew of the old submarine knew one thing for certain. The ocean, the planet, and humanity were safe for now. The old submarine drifted quietly on the surface of the calm ocean. The explosions and chaos of the deep trench were gone, replaced by silence. Jack Morrow leaned against the railing, staring at the horizon. The sun had fully risen, lighting the water with soft gold and blue shades. He could feel the weight of what they had done, and it was almost hard to believe. An old submarine, a few humans, and their courage had defeated a full alien invasion force. Lisa Carter sat beside him, her hands still shaking from the adrenaline, though her face carried a small, proud smile. We actually did it. We destroyed their ships, and they didn't even know what hit them. Ben Turner checked the sonar console one last time. The traces of alien energy pulses were fading quickly. They're retreating far from the trench. Whatever remains of their force is leaving our planet's waters. We've won. At least for now. Jack nodded slowly. They underestimated humans. They assumed we were predictable. They assumed an old submarine couldn't matter. But they forgot one thing. Humans survive. Even against impossible odds. They spent the next hours repairing minor damage to the submarine. The old vessel had endured far more than it was built for, but it had survived. Lisa patched up systems and reinforced the hull, while Ben monitored the energy traces to make sure no alien ships remained nearby. Jack guided the submarine back to safer waters, slowly and carefully, respecting the limits of the old machinery. As they moved toward the open ocean, Jack spoke quietly. People above will never know exactly what happened. The satellites and modern ships saw the explosions, the chaos, but they won't understand how a decommissioned submarine and 3 humans changed everything. The world doesn't need to know the details, just that humans survived. Lisa leaned back against the bulkhead, letting out a long sigh. It's strange. We fought against something we didn't understand. We couldn't communicate. We couldn't reason with them. But we used our brains, our experience, and our courage. And it worked. Humans really are unpredictable. Ben smiled softly. And that's exactly why we won. They expected predictable patterns. They expected technology to fail first. They expected humans to panic. But we didn't. We stayed calm. We adapted. And we struck when it mattered most. Jack watched the calm waves and thought about the people in the coastal cities that had been evacuated. They were safe now. And it was because of what they had done deep below the surface. Humans have always survived, he said. From the first days on land, to the first time we sailed the seas, to exploring space. It doesn't matter what the enemy is. Humans endure. Humans fight back. No. Lisa looked out at the horizon. We might be small compared to them, but humans are clever. We use what we have and make it work. That's our strength. Hours passed as the submarine slowly traveled toward friendly waters. The ocean was calm, almost peaceful, and the crew felt a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. The adrenaline of the battle had faded, leaving them with the realization of what they had accomplished. As they approached the coastline, Jack contacted the Naval Command. "This is Captain Jack Morrow of the Submarine Archer. We have completed our mission. The alien invasion force in the trench has been destroyed. Repeat. The alien ships have been neutralized. Returning to base for debriefing." There was a long pause on the radio, followed by an astonished voice. "Captain, you're saying an old submarine and your crew destroyed the alien fleet? Is that correct?" Jack's voice was steady. "Yes. It's exactly as it happened. Our submarine may be old, but we used it well. Humans are unpredictable, and that's why we survived." Lisa shook her head in disbelief. "They're never going to believe it," she whispered. Ben chuckled softly. "Sometimes, people don't need to understand. They just need to survive. And right now, humanity has survived." When the submarine docked, a small team of officials and scientists waited. They looked at the old vessel with amazement, not understanding fully how it had defeated the alien force. Papers were signed, photos taken, and the crew gave statements. Though Jack made sure to keep some details secret, certain things didn't need to be widely known. Humans should be proud, but they didn't need to boast to the world. The media got a partial story. A heroic submarine crew had defended the oceans against a mysterious threat. No details about the alien ships or the depth of the trench were released. Only the courage and skill of the humans were highlighted. Jack, Lisa, and Ben quietly accepted commendations, but in their hearts, they knew the full truth. It wasn't the technology. It wasn't the size of their weapons. It was the human spirit that won the day. Days turned into weeks, and life slowly returned to normal. The oceans were calm, and the world continued, unaware of how close it had come to disaster. Jack returned to teaching at a naval academy, sharing lessons in patience, strategy, and human ingenuity. Lisa went back to engineering projects, her mind still buzzing with ideas inspired by the old submarine. Ben continued his work with sonar technology, quietly proud of how effective, basic, human-devised techniques had been against a superior enemy. One evening, the three met at a small dock near the ocean. The old submarine rested at the pier, silent but strong, a reminder of what humans could achieve. Jack looked out at the water. Humans survived again, and we did it in a way no one expected. That's the lesson. Never underestimate humans. We're small, but clever. Weak, but brave. Old, but strong. Lisa smiled. And we did it together. Teamwork, patience, courage. That's why we won. Not just one person, but all of us. Ben nodded. And the aliens will never forget it. Even if they retreat for now, they'll know humans are not to be underestimated. We're unpredictable, and that's our greatest weapon. They stood silently for a moment, watching the waves lap gently against the pier. The battle was over, but the lesson remained. Human spirit, intelligence, and courage could overcome any obstacle, no matter how advanced or powerful the enemy. As night fell, Jack, Lisa, and Ben returned home, knowing the world was safe, at least for now. The old submarine sat quietly in the dock, a relic of the past that had become the savior of the present. It would never sail the same way again, but its legacy would live on in the story of humanity's unexpected victory. The oceans were calm, the aliens defeated, and the humans had proven once again that courage and ingenuity were more powerful than any weapon or technology. Jack thought about the future. There will be other threats, he said quietly. Other enemies. But humans will always survive. We'll find a way. We'll fight. And we'll win. Lisa added softly. And we'll do it together. Humans are clever. And when we work together, nothing can stop us. Ben smiled, looking at the stars beginning to appear in the night sky. We may be small, but we're strong, unpredictable. And that's why we last. That's why humans survive. The old submarine rested quietly, the hero of a battle that no one fully understood. Below the waves, the trench was empty and silent. Above, the world went on, unaware of how close it had come to destruction. And in the hearts of three humans, the knowledge remained. Courage, ingenuity, and human spirit had saved the planet. And that night, under the calm stars, Jack, Lisa, and Ben knew one truth clearly. No matter what came from the stars, no matter how powerful or intelligent the enemy, humans would survive. Humans would fight. Humans would endure. The story of an old submarine defeating a full alien invasion force became a quiet legend among the few who knew the truth. It was proof that size, technology, and firepower were not always the deciding factors. Courage, patience, intelligence, and the willingness to face impossible odds, that was humanity's greatest strength. As the three walked along the pier, the ocean calm and the stars bright, they knew the world was safe for now. The alien fleet had been defeated, the oceans secured, and humanity had survived once again. Jack looked back at the submarine one last time. This old ship may never sail again, he said softly, but it will always remind us what humans can do when we refuse to give up. Lisa nodded. It's not just the submarine. It's us. Humans survive because we fight, we adapt, and we refuse to be predictable. Ben smiled, his eyes reflecting the moonlight on the water. And that's why we'll always win. No matter the odds, no matter the enemy, humans endure. The ocean whispered around them, quiet and eternal. The submarine rested. The aliens were gone. And humanity had won. And in the hearts of Jack, Lisa, and Ben, the knowledge remained. Humans could face anything, survive anything, and prevail against even the most impossible odds. The battle was over. The victory was theirs. And the story of courage, ingenuity, and human spirit would live on forever.